So artificial intelligence is a real buzz, but in healthcare, it must create a real impact. It means, for example, smarter hospital operations, better data sharing, and improved overall patient's care. Thanks to Spinverse, we will hear how and not only why. I invite Jayden Khakurel. Please welcome on stage. Round of applause.
Thanks. Yeah, I would like to thanks actually to Marco for inviting me and of course Split. And I'm really sorry that I brought the cold from Finland. Yeah, so I'm going to take it back on Sunday. So that's the first thing. Maybe the slides. Yeah. So I think there was the previous. Oh, okay. So if there's the previous, I think there was a missing there. The first slide is missing. Yeah. So that was the first thing I wanted to show you. So how many of you can actually tell what is this? Anyone can tell? Yeah. Exactly. What else is there? Yeah, I know, it's the brain. Yeah. But is it a human brain or? This is the future of our brain, yeah? So it's AI. So what I'm trying to show in this one is that we had a lot of problems, right, last few years. And what EU is doing now is trying to fix this. So if you go to the next slide. So what I'm going to talk here now is that how AI and data infrastructure are redefining the how healthcare from the inside out. So that was basically the topic that I want to bring it here. And if you look into the first figure, what is happening there? Thank you. So what is actually happening there? So if you look into the top figure there. Fixing, yeah? So we've been fixing that. Yeah, so that's what has been doing. And now to do that, so if you look into those are what we can call it as a pipe. Yeah, so you all don't know the plumbing. So there was a data issues, and now what AI, the European Commission, the national rules and regulations, the agencies, they're actually fixing that, and that is called data plumbing. Yeah, so to do the AI, we need to fix the data pipe. So we all know about the data. So there is like, it is a little bit different than if you go to the US and then the Europe. Yeah, so if you look into the European Union, we are more stronger, yeah, so than the US. Because we have 3 different regulations, so we're getting strict. Of course, we always say that, yeah, there is coming a lot of issues related to the regulations that we cannot do this, we cannot do that, we cannot do that. But there's a reason behind that, yeah, we want to protect. So we want to protect ourselves, yeah, we want to have a control over our data. So there are 3 of the things that actually happened. So of course, the GDPR, everybody knows. So there is now the European Health Data Space. I think majority of you know probably. How many of you know what is ESDS? Of course you know, Joanne. Yeah, you know, yeah. So they're now moving towards the European Health Data Space that we all can have share the data, so the cross-border, yeah. Then there is a EU AI Act. How many of you know AI Act? So I see maybe 10, 15%, right? So this is basically one of the critical things that you need to look at into it if you really want to work on the healthcare. Yeah, so if you want to do innovation, so the AI Act is really important. Then there is, of course, the My Health at EU. So that is what Commission is promoting now, right? So you have control over the data. You can actually utilize your data cross-border, right? So you can, even you move to, let's say, Croatia, I can still get the same services that I am getting in Finland. So there are 3 important dates that Commission has brought into place. Yeah, so first one was in July 2024, so AI Act published in the official journal. So they want to push that direction. Then in 1st of August 2024, it came into place. So the AI Act was in force. So we all were getting scared, what's happening, and so on forth. And it's actually causing a lot of trouble as well, especially with the medical devices. As you probably know that you need to also fulfill the regulations. And now this year, 26th of March 2025, it came with the ESDS, the European Health Data Space, into place. So what does that really actually mean? So there is 2 things. So one is primary use, and the secondary use. Yes, the primary use meaning that you have a control over your data. There's a secondary use of data, means that it enables the research. So to do something for you guys, to do the health innovations or develop something, AI models and so on, you need to apply with the secondary use of data. Yeah, so that is what we need to do it. Then if we look into two different ones, if you look into the figure there are two tunnels, I would say, are the two pipes. So one of the pipe you have is myhealth.at.eu, that is also from the Commission. And then you have another one, which is health data at EU. So myhealth.at.eu is enabling your data, right? So cross-border services that you get it. You can get the e-prescriptions and so on forth. But the one which you have it is the health data at EU, which is actually leaking the data that for research, for the secondary use, which we are actually trying to get it. Yeah, so you need to train the model. So how can you get it? You cannot just get it from hospital. Yeah, so that is not enough. So there are research infrastructure, right, like BBMRI, ERIC, or ERIC infrastructure and so on forth. They enable you to get those data sets, right? Of course, they are pseudonymized or anonymized and so on for how you interpret that one. Then if we go next one, so of course, when you have MyHealth at EU data, right? So for the EHDS, you need to have the format. So how that works, you actually utilize the FHIR, so HL7 FHIR. So that which actually enables you to utilize this data. So FHIR is more or less, if you are coming from the tech side, I think you know the REST API. Yeah, so it's just kind of integration to different EHR and so on forth. So this is how you do. So what has changed at the bedside now? So you have a data, you have the devices, what has changed? So a lot of things have changed, actually. Yeah, so if you see last 5 years or 6 years ago, you probably just go there, write a prescription in a paper, you give it to you, hand it over. But now things have changed. So you have more that the healthcare professionals, they could see everything in the computer, right? So you don't have to go multiple lab tests. So things have changed. Yeah? So in Finland, we have a Kanta, so you basically can see the prescription online. Yeah? So it's much more easier. Life has been much more easier for everybody. Then what has changed in research? So things has also changed in the research. So there is an initiative called Darwin.eu, right? So this is the big initiative. And this has over 152 million patients across 15 countries data, so out of July 2025. So what it has enabled is that it could actually enable you to get access to the data. Yeah, so you can test your model. So developing a model is easy, right? So with a small set of data sets, you can develop. But having a bias-free model is difficult. So you need to have a data from different size. You need to have it more kind of diverse data sets. So that is actually the need there. Then, of course, it's a robust regulatory validation as well. So that has enabled quite many things last few years. So I took an example for 3 different countries, right? So one is, of course, Finland. Then we have it from Estonia. So I think you probably know Estonia is also very digitally oriented. And I also took it from France. So there's a difference between 3 of them. So if you look into the Finnish one, the difference there is that it's controlled by government, right? So it's a FinData. FinData is very difficult data. Access to data is a centralized access for trusted research. So you need to go through the permit process and so on forth from there. But in Estonia, you have more secure access to data. So they're more oriented to the digital innovation. Yeah? But in France, if you look into it, you have also curated data for the research. So if you look into the other side, you have, of course, 3 different countries actually enabling the access to data, yeah, for the different ways. But then to do AI, what do you really need for the AI innovation? There are 4 different pillars. Yeah, so 4 different pillars is needed, whereas the clear governance and trust frameworks. So what does that mean? You need to know what kind of data you have access to, who is the provider, and so on forth, and who has a control over the data. Yeah, so that is basically needed. Then you need to have common standards, right? So basically now with the EHDS, you have the common standard format that the European Commission is recommending. Then you have a national federated data platform. So the centralized access or centralized data is now the past, I would say. Many of the projects that is actually running now, everything runs in the federated way, meaning that the data stays where it is, right? So you only go through the virtually and train your models and so on and forth. Then, of course, the last one is more onto the AI integration and try to reimbursement and so on forth. So this is really kind of 4 different things you need to take into consideration if you really want to scale the AI or you want to create a new innovation on the top of it. Then there is, of course, the AI Act. Of course, it's not that easy, right? Yes, it's, of course, bring something into its own place. It's going to be a chicken and egg problem. Yeah, so it is, of course, the problem related to the one who's doing a procurement at hospitals you need to fulfill. And the one which is actually developing is also a problem. And mostly the problems happens especially for the SMEs or the startups because they do not have an access to it, all of the things, resources that they do require. So here, what I have put it, like what vendors must show really before they could go is that you, as a hospital, you really require to see what are the risks that the AI model has it, you know? Then the quality of the data sets. So everything comes to the data, right? So AI is just an algorithm. There's nothing really important. So everything is the data. So what data do you have it? How diverse the data are, right? So, I mean, if I just develop a model from the Croatia, and then I would just say, okay, my model predicts 90%. But then if you go and test it in Finland, it might be different. You know, that's a different culture, a different person, you know, like and so on and forth. So then technical documentation should be really, really robust. Yeah? So that is actually important. The human oversight. I think somebody was told earlier that the human in the loop, I would say, are the co-creation. So I think it has to always be there. And I am a really big believer on that one as well. And I was very saying before, is that the human in the loop has to be there when you are developing transparency. So of course, we need to come out from the black market and then post-market monitoring. Yeah, so those are the things that what I see you must show to the vendor. Then there is the safety checklist for the buyer as well. So when you are actually buying from any SMEs and so on forth, so you need to look into that whether it is the standard compliance or not, right? So if we are moving to HDS, so that is actually the need. Then, of course, there is the evidence and the transparency. So you need to have the different model cards and so on forth. What do you do when you develop an AI? And then, of course, the data sets, where the data is coming from. It all comes to the data, no matter what you do. And then, of course, maintain the logs and so on forth. So these are basically the things that buyers should check it as well. So how you design and actually mitigates this whole thing is that basically there are key risks as well, right? So everything is basically more or less, fragmented, right? So now at the moment, if you look into data in the rare disease, some of the data have been treated only actually in the certain centers. So the data are located into certain centers. The volume is really low, yeah? So you need to work together, right? To enable this AI innovation, I think that all different sides should work together. It's regardless of any domain. Like, for example, if you go to pharma, if you go to the healthcare, you know, especially with the hospitals and so on forth, you need to work together. Then the other things, what I see is that the OPEC and the governance lack of trust. So we need to build the trust. So the trust is not just only the developer, but the trust not just with the hospitals and developers, but it should be also trust between the clinicians, yeah? Or the trust between the patients. So it has to be there. The last one, what I see is that we need to have the unbiased AI devices. Right? So as I say that, again, it comes to the data. So if you train the model with only one data set, like with specific country or specific location, it's going to turn into more biased. Yeah? So it's only specific geographic and so on forth, so you need to move that around. So I took some of the use cases that had actually been running, and what I see is really important. So things have changed because of this enabling of the data and so on forth. So it's the imaging trials and reporting structuring. And it actually utilizes the FIRE standards. And it's basically takes the AI actually reads the different AHR imaging sites and so on and forth. So this is a very interesting case, and you can also find it in the FIRE website. The second one is to use the patient summary and the e-prescription to check for interaction of dispensaries. So this is also the national project. I think it was done in Estonia. So this is also very interesting. And then, of course, there's the adverse event signal detections, and it was taken from the Darwin.eu, right? So this was also the cross-collaboration. This is very interesting. And it has created the positive impacts. So it has enhanced the clinician's efficiency. So AI is, of course, the part of our life, but it's used, if you use it, it's more for efficiency and so on and forth. Then, of course, the improved patient safety, so your early detections and so on and forth. And then, of course, the stronger health outcomes. So those are the things that what I see as well, the positive impacts these are created. So the roadmap of AI integration in health, so of course, what I just said before, you need to follow the standards. Right? So that is basically, and even if you are a SME or LE or whatever you are, if you develop a software related to the AI or the decision support tool, you need to follow the data flows, where the data is coming, what standards you follow. Then you enable the patient access and the logs, so it is more in the ASDS compliance, where you can see things. Then you have to have integrate the CE confirmation AI tool, so more or less about the certification and so on and forth. And then, of course, the post-marketing monitoring. So even you deploy something at 1 minute, let's say, for one settings, but you need to continue to monitor that one. So this is what I see the roadmap for the integration in health. So overall, I still have 3 minutes. So I think there's something. Okay, so overall, what I see, what I say earlier, that for the interoperability and so on forth, we need to have, regulate the data infrastructure. Yeah, so that is one of the key that what I see. Clinical workflow or the human in the loop is really a need. And then, of course, the outcomes from the AI, you need to always feedback the loop. So it is basically the feedback loop what I see at the moment. And then, of course, the regulation is always on the top. Yeah, so it's good to have a regulation than no regulation. Yeah, so if you really want to control over the AI and so on and forth. So as I say here is that the health data is becoming regulated. It's becoming interoperable, right? So you can utilize from anywhere. And then, of course, it's all for the good. Yeah, so that we stay safe. We have a control over the data. We have the control what we do. So that's all from my side. Yeah, thanks, everyone.